Welcome back, everyone, to Todd's podcast. My guest here today is Stephanie Connors, the president and CEO of BayCare Health System, a leading healthcare provider system here in the Tampa Bay region. Stephanie is an experienced healthcare leader. She's built a reputation as an inspiring leader within her community and within her company. She is committed to the highest standard of clinical excellence, compassion, safety, service, and also engagement. She began as a bedside nurse, progressed into patient services before becoming a CNO, and then moved into operations as a COO before joining the not-for-profit BayCare Health System in November of 22. Stephanie came to run BayCare while we were still recovering from the effects of COVID, and she made her priority improving the healthcare workers' experience in the post-COVID world that we find ourselves in. It's not a small task. Early retirement, traveler nurses, low morale, and overall fear of being in the healthcare business was a huge concern, I know, of you and everyone that was involved in the healthcare business. And Stephanie is quoted as saying that the team members are our most important assets and therefore my first priority. So welcome, Stephanie, and thank you for taking some time to be here. I know you're very, very busy. You were at the Strawberry Festival this morning. I don't know if you were singing with the entertainment or doing some other things, but we do appreciate you taking the time to come here to Lakeland and recording this.
Thank you, Todd. I'm happy to be here, and I was enjoying all the amazing people at the Strawberry Festival. It definitely is an incredible community.
Yes, it is, and it's an incredible event. It's also the state fair, so it's a big thing. Wonderful entertainment and pretty cool. So let's talk a little bit about you and your background and how you came to BayCare Health Systems. Like, where were you born? What were you like in high school, junior high? What kind of made you into who you are now?
So I grew up in West Philadelphia, just like the song, born and raised. My mom was a waitress. She would go to work at 5 a.m., sometimes not home till 1 in the morning. My father did different types of jobs, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about what he did for me in my career. I went to an inner city high school and decided I wanted to be a nurse. So in middle school, I was changing dressings and taking care of my grandparents and my great aunt, and I went to my father and said, I'd like to be a nurse. I was persistent. I became a candy striper, an EMT. I spent a lot of time caring for others. I was blessed because I had parents that loved me, did everything they could to support me. So my father decided he was going to go to Villanova, where I decided I wanted to go to school and get a job. He was hired as a security officer there because back in those days, if you worked as someone in the school, if you had an occupation there, that they would help fund for the education of your children.
Wonderful.
It was amazing. So I applied, but I was denied because I went to an inner city high school and I wasn't the traditional student that they accepted into Villanova. My father saw the dean of nursing every day who traveled through the front of the building, and he was stationed there, and asked her if she would meet me, and she obliged. I was thrilled, nervous, went there, met her, and all I can remember saying is, if you give me a chance, I'll make you proud. She said, take a couple classes. If you get A's in those classes over the summer, I'll accept you in the fall. Sure enough, I delivered, and she accepted me. What's amazing about this is an individual who didn't know me, who saw something in me that I don't know that I even saw in myself, accepted me into a very challenging program, which was 99 students at the time.
Wow.
And I graduated, but I graduated with a lot of help from the dean. My father fell ill, left Villanova. I didn't have funding for a lot of things I needed, and I worked full-time as a nursing assistant, traveling into the city every day. The dean made sure I had everything I needed to graduate. Don't really know how all of it happened. I just know that I was successful, and I know it came from philanthropy and the support that she had given me and the support my parents gave me, the best to their ability. Long story short, I became the youngest chief nursing officer across the country, and I was doing a national speaking engagement talking about change management and culture and being kind. And I feel if you're kind first and you give others the respect that they deserve, it's amazing the culture that you can create, an organization where people really need you. She came up to me and asked me if I was the same girl asked me my last name, my maiden name. We had our moment. She passed away a few years ago, and I sent my letter into Father Donahue, and during her service, my story was read.
Wow.
And it was everything to do about her taking a chance on someone like me and my success as a result of her seeing something in me that I don't think I ever even saw in myself. So my mission in life is to make a difference in the lives of others, to lead with kindness and never forget my roots and what I'm here to do. And that's just to make lives better of total strangers whenever I possibly can.
Did you ever ask her what she saw in you that made her want to take a chance?
You know, back
Did she
then,
ever articulate that to you?
I was so young and impressionable. To be honest with you, I never asked her, but what I would guess is my enthusiasm and
Work ethic. It had to be part of your work ethic.
is a
too.
big part of my work ethic. The fact that she gave me the opportunity when so many children wanted to go to that university, it just shows what kind of person she is. And I have an obligation as a result to make that kind of difference for others in this world.
Wow, that's amazing. It's pretty cool. Did you stay in touch with her after, so she kept up with your career, or was it you kind of hit or miss, and then when she passed away, then you were able to reconnect with them?
No, I was on her board
Wow.
and I participated actively and a big fan mutually of each other. And also Rose O'Driscoll, who was another educator there, who was her COO at the time, also did tons for me while I was going through school. I have to say there was many that vested in me as I was making my journey through Villanova. But my career really took off. I started as a bedside nurse at the University of Pennsylvania, and then I moved over to Hahnemann University Hospital. I was a trauma nurse there, so I started really as a med-surg nurse, moved into trauma before management, and I've had amazing people who have vested in me throughout my career. So she's one of many, but probably the most prominent as a result of giving me the start.
So I want to get into your nursing life in a few minutes, but I want to go through a couple of other things. You talked about how you came into nursing, and it sounds like that's been an incredibly rewarding and exciting period of your life. And you know, you talked about how it shaped you and how you want to help others, and and I don't think you can be a nurse and not have that inner drive to want to help others and be pretty selfless about it as well, because I don't know any nurses that are real boastful. They're just kind of putting their head down and grinding it out and doing whatever's necessary, and you know, that's a servant's heart, and I think that's what you have and what you had back in the day, and I think that's probably what that dean probably saw in you.
Well, thank you. I would say I come from a family that's really caring. My parents never had much, but they would give all of themselves to a total stranger. And so I have really strong roots on first being kind, and being a nurse, I just gravitated towards wanting to heal people and really making them feel better. So I was a natural caregiver around compassion. And I would say my number one driver was compassionate care. As a nurse, you can't always save lives, but the people you influence, even when a life is lost, is the family that's around them. So you have great influence as a nurse to not only take care of the patients, their families, and then each other. Because we dealt with and deal with, and our nurses deal with high complexity,
Right.
and stress,
Yes.
and a lot of unknowns. So I would say that compassion has to be first, and that's been my driver.
You know, oftentimes, if the nurse will just hold the patient's hand, if the nurse just grabs their ankle, touches their ankle while they're talking to them, that human touch of another person, that goes a long way, I think, to quieting the fears that and the trepidation that some of the patients have.
My greatest memory is a patient who had a radical neck dissection, and the impact to that individual was pretty significant. So he wasn't shaven for quite some time, and I spent a lot of time to shave around, obviously, his surgical site and to make him feel human and have dignity. And I'll never forget that his wife brought in a locket and a key and told me I held the key to their hearts. And that was a moment in my career that I realized it is the small things. It really is the small things. You're expected to save someone's life. That's expected as a clinician. But how you make them feel is all the difference. And as a bedside nurse, to your point, just holding a hand, the soft touch, being the one to shave the patient, those small things, that's what really makes a difference.
Do you talk about that when you visit with other nurses, whether you're giving a speech to a graduating set of nurses from a class, or if you're just rounding with them and you just remind them of how important that touch is?
Always. I would say earlier in my career, I spent a significant amount of time around culture and kindness and, teaching individuals that no matter what stress you come to work with during that day, we have to be there to support you as an individual, but we need your best self to be able to support those that are at that most vulnerable time. And that's hard because everybody has things that are happening in their lives and they're dealing with others that are at their most vulnerable. So a big part of my career was teaching culture and reminding everyone that the greatest impact that you are going to have is how you respond to a situation and how somebody feels they were treated. And it's made a difference.
Do you think culture is something you're born with, or do you think you learn it over your lifetime? You've talked about it a couple times already here today and how important that culture is. How do you know what to teach?
I want to believe that everybody is innately good, even though that's very optimistic.
I think you're right.
Most people have innate goodness. As a leader, it's your job to give them the runway to be their best self. So what's amazing about leadership, even though when I became a nurse, I thought I hit the pinnacle, never thought I would be a CEO, never even thought about it. I came from where I came from, and that's all I wanted out of my career, and I never forget that. But now I'm in a position of leadership where I can influence and give people the runway to be their best self. And if I do that, then I believe that that kindness is able to shine through at people's best versus those that don't look at individuals and the situations. Healthcare is complex. So as a leader, you really have to eliminate those barriers. And although you can't make someone happy, there's only one person that can make an individual happy, and that's themselves. You can do your best to give them that runway to be the best of who they are.
I love that comment about giving them the runway to do that themselves. So BayCare, they were formed in 1997, so we're now in about our 28th year of existence. Do you have any history of BayCare, how they started? You're the fourth CEO of BayCare, so they're a relatively new healthcare system. And, how many hospitals operate underneath the BayCare system flag, I guess?
There's 16 hospitals, including our children's hospital, and we're planning on building a 17th in Manatee County, right, which more information will come out about that very soon. We are a very strong organization, and I want to say when I went through the search process, the board paid a lot of attention to a new CEO, the fourth CEO, that would be a part of the culture that has been established over the last 26 years, which is, in my mind, an unmatched culture. I grew up in Philadelphia. I raised my children in New Jersey. It's almost the same thing. Was there my whole life. So for me to pick up my entire family and move here, I had to find something special, or I would still be back north. And when I visited and met the board and the individuals throughout BayCare, I knew there was something special here. So it was mutual, and I was excited about it. And when I arrived, I found exactly what I thought, which is not only an unmatched culture, but one of the top health systems in the country that deliver extraordinary care. So we're 16 strong now. We have a large ambulatory footprint. We have a large physician practice plan called our BayCare Medical Group, as well as we're expanding our residency programs. So we are the largest health system in West Central Florida, and 1 out of 3 individuals in West Central Florida choose BayCare.
Wow. Was your whole career in community health care, not-for-profits, or were you ever on the for-profit side?
I was. My first chief nursing officer job, I was at a for-profit health system. I was at Hahnemann, but it was a large for-profit health system named Tenet Health, which is still active today. And I learned a significant amount in both not-for-profit and for-profit. So I started out in not-for-profit as a leader. I was in for-profit, then moved to not-for-profit as a COO. And I will tell you that my broad range of experience has propelled me well for BayCare.
What's the big difference other than trying to make a profit? I mean, everyone doesn't want to lose money. What's the big difference in the approach to running a not-for-profit versus a for-profit?
I want to believe that in healthcare, everyone believes that quality should be their North Star. I can't really speak for individual for-profit organizations because I know they have shareholders and they have to have a bottom line. But I can tell you that the for-profit organization that I worked for truly did believe in quality. But BayCare stands out. BayCare is a not-for-profit. Quality truly is the North Star. Our safety, our service, our quality. But I wouldn't minimize the work that for-profit does. It's just they have shareholders.
Right.
And having shareholders, you have to produce
Your mission's a little
financially.
different.
Your mission is different. And in not-for-profit, we are a community-owned health system, and our mission is all about the communities we serve. We have 2 hospitals in Polk County, as you know. We have Winter Haven and Bartow Regional.
And Winter Haven Women's.
And Winter Haven Women's as well. And we're very committed to all the counties we serve. We're in, right now we're going to be in 5 counties actually, with Manatee County. So again, being the largest provider over West Central Florida, that gives us our ability to really deliver for the communities because we do believe we're community owned. And that's in our mission around behavioral health, ensuring that we have treating the total care of the individual from hospital to home and everything in between. So we have a robust ambulatory service as well. And then when you look at not-for-profit, we put 10% of our revenues back into the community, and that's pretty significant.
Right.
You wouldn't find that in for-profit. So a lot of our work is mission-based. We contribute back into the community. We're very active into the community, and I would say that's the difference.
Okay.
Todd's podcast is sponsored in part by SVN Saunders Ralston Dantzler Real Estate. Since 1996, the firm has offered unrivaled brokerage services throughout Florida, Georgia, and Alabama. With over 90 expert advisors throughout the region, our team has the knowledge and resources to help clients realize their most ambitious real estate investment goals. When you choose SVN Saunders Ralston Dantzler Real Estate, you have access to a diverse suite of commercial and land services, including forestry consulting, land management, auctions, property management, commercial leasing, and negotiating conservation easements. If you're seeking to invest in land or explore commercial real estate opportunities in the Southeast, contact us today at svnsaunders.com or call 877-518-5263 to connect with an advisor today. Once again, that's svnsaunders.com or by phone at 877-518-5263.
You came to BayCare November of 2022. What was your first, right?
Well, I arrived in October, but officially took the CEO job in November. That is correct.
So what were the first 2 or 3 months like?
My entire goal was to meet as many BayCare team members and community members as possible. So I spent days and nights going throughout all of our facilities, getting to know our greatest asset, which is our team members, our physicians. Our patients come for our physicians. They stay for our extraordinary care. And for me, my number one job is delivering for those 32,000 plus individuals. So they are the most important thing for me at this point and going forward to ensure that I give them the runway to be their best self. So all my energy and time was getting to know them in the community.
So there's 32,000 team members. Is that what you just said?
And growing, yes.
And growing. What's your management style to handle that many people? Are you very segmented in your approach and say, hey, I got a bunch of lieutenants and generals underneath me that take care of theirs and they report to me when something's on fire? Do you want to know everything that's going on? I see you personally as a person who gets out into the community and gets out into the hospitals, and I think that is so needed right now, and I welcome that in all the hospitals. But your approach is, I want to give everyone the ramp or the runway to become bigger and better for themselves. How do you do that?
We are a very matrixed organization. So again, our size and our scale, we need to be sure that all boats rise together. So my leadership style is very participatory. I don't have any walls that go up. I am no different than the person who greets you at the front door. My style is I treat everyone equally. I'm accessible as I possibly can be. Yes, I have an amazing team that runs this organization, and we call it the cabinet team that is at the highest level of the organization. But then they have their presidents and CNOs and CMOs and all of the individuals that take care of each of the facilities. They're all equally important. So all boats need to rise. And if we all give all of our 32,000 plus team members, all of our physicians, the runways to be their best self, that's our number one job as leaders. There's the technical side of what we do every single day, which I did when I started out in my career. And those individuals are critically important to this organization. And we have to make sure they have the equipment and supplies they need to do their job and the resources they need. And coming out of the pandemic, that was complex. It was a rough couple of years for healthcare. And I have many stories around how we delivered through that very challenging time. But what will define us is how we respond on a go forward. And we need to remember that our people are the most important asset that we have. And if we treat them extremely well to the best of our ability, then our patients will get the extraordinary care that we're known for.
So with your 17 hospitals, it almost sounds like there's a lot of autonomy given to those hospital presidents to run their group with certainly the appropriate amount of oversight. Is that kind of how you're evolving, or maybe that's how you took over, is, hey, St. Joe's, you've got this, you've got a lot of autonomy, tell us what you need? Or
we have a system approach. So there's systems and structures that are in place that all of BayCare need to follow, and policies and procedures. But ultimately, all of our counties are uniquely different. And my job as a CEO is to honor those legacies and support those leaders in supporting the communities that are uniquely different. So all things are not the same.
Correct.
And we work really hard to enable our leaders to function independently. Being a part of the system, there are synergies, and that's what makes BayCare so amazing. Our role is to make sure that no matter where you go within BayCare, the care you receive is just as extraordinary if you're in Hillsborough, Polk, Pasco, right, in any of the counties that we soon to be Manatee, Pinellas. It's very important to us that all of our counties, no matter where you touch BayCare, that care is just as extraordinary. So yes, autonomy is important, but we also have an expectation on culture. We also have an expectation on safety, on service, on quality, and we all need to deliver equally on all of those fronts.
Very well said. I want to talk about nursing. You know, before we came on the air, we were talking in my office about nursing, and I gave you a little bit about what my mom's gone through the last couple of years and the incredible nursing care she's got in Winter Haven Hospital. You've talked a little bit about what kind of a nurse you were, and it sounds like you're going to answer this question with a yes. It obviously had to be the most rewarding portion of your professional life, being a nurse.
I am still a nurse.
Right.
I have my license, and I still feel like that's just who I am. It's not a degree.
Right.
Being a nurse is who I am and who I will always be, and it enables me to be a better leader. So the fact that I took care of patients in the front lines, the fact that I was a trauma nurse, the fact that I worked when there was short staffing, the fact that I worked through many crises that occurred during my time as a nurse enabled me to be a better leader. So I would say equally rewarding in the sense that I'm still a nurse. I just have more influence in the role that I'm in to make a difference. And so as a nurse, it was one person at a time.
Right.
As a leader and the CEO of BayCare, I feel like anything's possible. And I always tell my team it's the art of the possible. And just think big and think bold. And how do we evolve ourselves in our next chapter of BayCare to be even better than we are today? And so that influence that I have to enable everybody to be their best self, I think it's just going to make us stronger and better as we move through our journey. But I will always be a nurse. It's what I was born to be, and it's just who I am.
Do you ever wish you could just take off your formal clothes and put a nursing uniform back on and slide back onto a floor and with some anonymity and just be a nurse for a shift or two? Do you miss it that granularly?
So I've been blessed because throughout my career, I do put on scrubs and I go out on the floors. Unfortunately, everyone knows who I am. So
Right.
It's a little challenging because you can't function as a bedside nurse.
Eli
as I
has that
did,
when he goes out on the weekends,
All the
as
time.
everybody knows him.
especially on the hospital floors. But, that's a huge positive. So I think about that. And I think the fact that my team members know who I am, I take that as something I'm very proud of. But to answer your question, I'm always a caregiver. My mother-in-law has dementia. She was with us for several weeks, and I provided care for her, and it came natural to me. I didn't ask anyone else to do it, and I took care of her when she needed me, and when there were significant issues, it just comes natural. Time-wise, I can't be the full-time caregiver, but it's instinct. And so I'll put on scrubs every once in a while. When I first arrived, I shadowed on both day shift and night shift, our nurses, and it was amazing. It was amazing to be out there. Now, I spent more time talking to the patients, and obviously they did the hard stuff, but
Right.
watching them, it makes me so proud.
If you don't fully appreciate what a nurse does, just watch them.
Just watch them.
Just watch them. And if you could be a fly on the wall and just see how they interact and how they take care of the patient. And, usually no matter what they're dealing with at home, they're able to separate that and focus on that on that person that they're taking care of. And I find that just absolutely amazing that they can do that. I'm a big fan of nurses.
Thank you. And I have to just do a shout out for the multidisciplinary team. As I mentioned, that patients come traditionally for the physicians and they stay for the extraordinary care. And that is from our security team at the front when you walk in, to our environmental services, to our food workers, the folks that work behind the scene in pharmacy, and even in our financial department. All of those individuals, the intake in our call centers, they are what make our culture what it is today. Our nurses spend the most time with the patients, but I know, and I believe why I'm a CEO is because I saw the bigger picture. And I saw that it took all of us, and everybody plays a part. And even though I'm a nurse and we're talking about nursing, I would be remiss if I didn't
Right.
talk about all those other amazing individuals that influence the care of the patients and make us the organization we are today.
We've talked about nurses are the glue that really kind of keeps a hospital going. Have we moved past travelers, or is management still dealing with a substantial number of traveling nurses? Because I know that during that part of COVID, huge financial implications when our nurses would go and be travelers somewhere else, and when we had to hire nurses as travelers to come back, the hourly rate was significant. Have we started to get back to where we have some normalcy, or are we still having a significant number of travelers overall in the industry, I guess?
We at BayCare are having some normalcy. I think the industry's still dealing with challenges post-pandemic. However, I do believe it's improving. Unfortunately, the fact that all of us had difficulty at that period, the agencies had an opportunity to hike rates and make it very lucrative
Yes.
for clinicians, which was unfortunate. It was unfortunate for the time we were living in, and it didn't serve the healthcare industry well, because individuals will live to those means, and then when things settle out, they don't have that same level of income. That's hard on people. So I don't fault the nurses for taking the opportunity, but I do fault society for enabling that to happen.
Right.
I think we are better than that. But here's the positive side. The positive side is thousands of individuals are coming back to BayCare. It was their home, and it's still their home, and they realize that that's not the lifestyle they want. So over the last 18 months or so, or I would say even prior, we started to see a large influx of individuals returning. And in the last 18 months, it's thousands, which is really rewarding. It says a lot about our culture. It says a lot about individuals who want stability. And when it comes down to it, you can do traveler nursing for a while, and some people do it much longer than others can. But ultimately, the number one reason why an individual stays in a job, literature shows that it's your direct supervisor. The second reason is those that you surround yourself with, your team. So it is hard to do that job, traveling and doing interim assignments. We are very pleased with our culture, very pleased with the improvements we've made over the last couple of years, and we're on the upswing.
I know that I spent different times in the hospital, not for myself, but for others, and rounding as a board member at Winter Haven. And I'd often ask the nurses, I said, hey, where have you been? He said, oh, I'm a traveler. I've been down here for 12 weeks. I said, do you like it? He said, my wife and I are moving down here because we like Winter Haven or the hospital. I mean, they like the hospital and the environment. And I know that happened all over, and you just touched on that. Also talked to another one, hey, this is my last day as a traveler, and I'm going to try and figure out how to come back here. So part of it, like you just said, is the culture and the people you surround yourself. If you can make it a great culture for even travelers to come to, they may try and figure out, hey, this is better than where I came from. I've got some mobility or portability in myself and my family, and maybe down here in one of these 4 counties would really work out well for us.
100%. This is a very popular place to live right now. Winter Haven is a beautiful area, and we are seeing, not only at Winter Haven, but across all of BayCare,
Absolutely.
that our travelers are converting to permanent positions. We also have a lot of creative staffing for nursing throughout BayCare because we're so large and we're in multiple counties. We have our own internal pool, and so those individuals will go where the need is, which really has helped during this time. But we believe that on the solution for the long term is to fill as many full-time positions as we possibly can, because that's our core staff, and then to be able to offset when needed with individuals that are okay floating throughout the entire system. And that has served us well. So many travelers converted over to full-time positions.
What is BayCare doing that's cutting edge in the medical world?
We're doing a lot that's cutting edge. So we are a first for many things. What's interesting about BayCare is we've been pretty quiet, and the world doesn't know that we are at the forefront of some clinical trials, and our physicians, I can talk to you about, we have physicians that are well published in the latest technology in breast surgery, that physicians across the country are utilizing that same technique that started at BayCare, cardiovascular techniques that started at BayCare that are now going across the country that started our organization. And so ensuring that the world knows what we're capable of, I think, is most important. But let me talk to you about some new things that are up and coming. Proton therapy is coming to West Central Florida. We're going to be the first organization to have the latest technology in proton, which is very important for patients that have certain types of cancer, and treating the tumor right at the site without damaging the tissue around the actual tumor itself. And children, very important for our children's hospital. They need proton therapy, and families now have to pick up their whole families and move to Orlando or Jacksonville because we didn't have that technology here in West Central Florida. So not only are we putting the technology in, but we're putting the most advanced technology. Then other areas of opportunity are nurse voice. As you mentioned, nursing is at the bedside most often with the patient, and they do a lot of documentation. So we're working on the voice documentation. So as I'm talking to you right now on the microphone, dictation would be happening automatically. So the nurse isn't in the computer, that they're actually taking care of the patient, making eye contact, and ensuring that we use that voice technology and all of that innovation in AI in a way that makes jobs easier for our team members. So we're very excited about that innovation. I could go on about several innovative things that we are doing throughout BayCare, but I will tell you that innovation, bold thinking, and thinking differently is our number one priority. We plan to define the future of healthcare. I honestly believe that the work that we've done in the past has done that. We need to make sure that our communities recognize the contributions that BayCare has made, not only in complex care, but also in behavioral health. We're the first health system to open up a urgent care for those that have immediate mental health needs. And think about the community today and the needs that are out there, and to be able to go to an urgent care center to get treatment or to be seen or to save a life and protect somebody from doing something that, you can't take back. And suicide, unfortunately, takes lives, and behavioral health needs throughout our community is something that is far greater than anyone would have anticipated pre-pandemic to where we are post-pandemic. So the fact that we thought bold and used funds that the state supported to be able to open that center, I think shows that we are thinking very differently and non-traditional.
There's such a shortage of mental health care providers, and there's such a need for it. You touched briefly on your residency program that we're doing here within the BayCare system. There's different ones. Is mental health, is that part of the residency program that you're offering at one of the hospitals? Are we there yet? Or what is out there that's going to help us start to bend the curve backwards towards getting a handle on some of the mental health?
The amazing thing is we have over 800 individuals that will run through our residency program, new residency slots that are coming forward. And we have the ability to put them in family medicine, in surgery, in behavioral health, in internal medicine. We really can decide where the need is. And then you apply for those slots and you train those residents, and they come through your system. And once they're here, the literature shows that those individuals tend to stay where they're trained. So we're very focused on meeting the needs of our community, and everything is on the table right now for BayCare. The fact that we're able to bring so many residents through our health system because of our size and because of our scale, it's important to us that we meet the community need. That's the same thing in our growth strategies. In our growth strategies, we're looking at meeting community need. We're not building just to build. We are looking at the community and saying, okay, this community needs a hospital. It's not because this community is profitable. We want to make sure that we go where our patients need us, our community needs us most, and we're delivering care where you need it, when you need it, and how you need it. We cannot do that if we don't train the future. And so that's where the residency programs come in. So you'll hear more about our specific residency programs in the future. Good. We are still building.
I can assure everybody who's listening that BayCare, they are in the communities. They are wanting to know what your particular community needs through surveys, through talks, through conversations, through their board members. I mean, it is constant. And so what you just said is so true, is you don't just build a hospital to build a hospital, you do it to take care of a need.
Hey, listeners.
Hey, everyone.
Hola.
Hi, all.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, this is Rob Palumbo.
This is Fred Hyde.
This is Juliet Ashley Vide.
Dr. Angela Garcia Falconetti.
This is Congressman Scott Franklin.
This is Margie Grant.
This is Jake Palumbo.
And I want to thank you for listening to Todd's podcast.
Thank you for listening to Todd's podcast.
Thank you for listening to Todd's podcast.
Please make sure that you like and or subscribe.
Don't forget
to subscribe to Todd's podcast on your favorite podcast app. Tune in and listen.
Join in and listen to us.
Thanks.
Thank you.
You know, COVID, hopefully that's in our rear view mirror. I don't want to talk too much about it, but it had such a significant effect, especially in the early days of it, on every team member that touched the hospital, whether they had to go home and take their clothes off in the garage and take a shower or hose off before they could even come in because they didn't know. And I know that was so stressful. Is our country and is our health system in a much better place if we have another pandemic today? Or are we still going to be starting from scratch and goes, we don't know what we're dealing with? We've got to have programs, products, and services and procedures in place that are much better, not just BayCare, but the whole medical community.
I'll tell you, before I came to BayCare, through the heart of the pandemic, I was a COO over multiple states, a health system. It was a $10 billion health system over 2 states, Pennsylvania and New Jersey, the largest health system, actually. And living through that, what I can tell you is we changed more policies and procedures in the shortest period of time than anyone thought was imaginable. It taught us that we are capable and we can change and we can pivot. And if anything, the future's brighter in healthcare because we know that staying the way we were isn't going to be the best for the communities that we serve. We have to be more innovative. We have to be more bold. I'm going to give you the best example. Very traditional medicine. When we were going through the pandemic, and again, I was over this large system, there was visitation restrictions. A patient would come into the hospital. Didn't matter if you had COVID or not, your loved one could not see you. You talk about the healthcare provider having to go home to take their clothes off, couldn't go into their house. Many weren't even able to go home. They were very fearful for their family, and they lived close to the hospital. What these caregivers did during this period of time is just unbelievably remarkable, and I don't think any words can show the appreciation. And then let's talk about the family. So your loved one's in the hospital, and you're told you can't see them. So we got creative and we used iPads. And remember, in hospitals before, you couldn't use the iPhones. You couldn't put on video. There was all types of concerns around HIPAA. What it taught us was we could use technology. But even better, sometimes we make decisions and it's not in the best interest of the patient. So when you think about the total care of the patient, treating the whole person, you're treating more than the disease, more than the acute episode. That's also the mental health of the patient and the family. So I received a letter from a family member that said, I want to thank you for the extraordinary care that my husband received, but I want you to know he died alone. That was just weeks into the pandemic. I immediately changed the policy, and we were the first health system that created a policy that no patient would die alone or no baby would come into the world without the significant other. And that did not go over very well when I went to change that policy. We published on it. And I will tell you, across the United States, everybody followed. So in healthcare, if you always do what's right and you think beyond that policy or that procedure for that moment of time, and you pivot and you adjust because healthcare changes, needs change, and you always do what's right and you think about the core of what you're there to do, which is improve the life and improve the health of those we serve, you'll make good decisions and you won't stand still. Standing still is not an option. My best example coming through the pandemic is exactly that. We can change. We just have to always remember what we're here to do, and we have to do the right thing.
Certificate of need. If you don't want to talk about that, the politics of that, that's fine. That changed in Florida a few years ago, and they kind of got rid of certificate of need. And what has been the effect on hospitals, especially community not-for-profits, and the healthcare industry, and how does that change leadership, you and your leadership team's focus as we move into the future?
So I'll tell you where I came from. It was very similar. We didn't have certificate of need, and there was hospitals built blocks away, and you found when the beds weren't needed and communities change, people move, needs change, you find that hospitals close. You know, certificate of need, there was a place for it because we talked about earlier meeting community need. I talk about smart growth all the time. As an organization, you need to grow. You can't stand still. But if you grow just to grow, no matter who's a block away from you, are you really serving the communities that need you most? So certificate of need, I feel, with that not being in Florida and in other states, is unfortunately going to create a time where we might find we overbuild. But in reality, it was removed because the theory was competition is good. And if you have competition, everybody will function better. There's two sides to every...
In theory, that works.
In theory. But there's two, you think about it and you can argue it either way. So you're right. I'm not here to talk about the political side of it. I lived both. I know the impacts of both. And all I can do is say, as a CEO, I will continue to encourage smart growth, be where the community needs us, and regardless of certificate of need, we won't build just to build.
I think that affects Florida much less because we got people moving here every day.
We have growth.
We have growth. But I look at perhaps a rural hospital in Nebraska, and someone permits another hospital, and all of a sudden that very small rural hospital, they don't have enough business to be able to hang on. Hospitals are not like a small real estate office that if my office closes, an insurance company can take the space. A hospital is very specifically built for a hospital, and it's designed like that. That's my concern of getting rid of the certificate of need. Perhaps relaxing it a little might have been a more appropriate approach to it, but that's just me personally, and I'm not the one that's making the decisions.
Todd, you're right. Florida is unique because we're growing. How exciting to live in a community where everybody wants to be. And so right. I'm blessed to be a part of this community and my family, and I absolutely love being here. There was a time that these communities that are seeing exit out of their, either their state or where there's multiple hospitals, they didn't anticipate that. So today we're growing, which is great. And if all leaders paid attention to where that growth is and we built to meet the need of those growing communities, we will be okay. The issue will come in if people build, if systems build or corporations build because they're looking for profit. And when you do that, you overbuild, and that's when those long-standing institutions that could be 100 years old, they can't compete with the new shiny
right.
building that comes into town. So there's vulnerabilities. I will tell everybody that you need to be the best in safety, service, quality, and your outcomes, you need to deliver that exceptional care, and then you have nothing to worry about. But in all reality, you're 100% correct.
Yeah. Got a buddy who lives in Sarasota part-time, North Carolina, the other part. And he was a trustee for his community hospital. I think it was Sarasota Community, one of the hospitals over there. I don't remember the name. And they ended up closing because either they didn't do, have your approach to it for whatever reason that, they closed. And, how do you repurpose a hospital? Difficult. Well, you've been really generous with your time. I want to lighten things up a little bit. Okay. We're kind of drawing to the close. So I want to do what we call a lightning round and just kind of give me your quick answer and let people find out a little bit more about you and what makes you tick and what makes you happy. And what's your favorite restaurant down here?
So my family and I love the meat market. We are really enjoying Hyde Park.
Okay.
And the environment there is just really nice for my big family. I have a family from 28-year-old son down to a 4-year-old grandson, soon to be a granddaughter that's coming. And I have lots of, I should tell you, I have a 28-year-old, a 27-year-old, a 23-year-old, a 15-year-old. My grandson's 4, and my granddaughter's on her way. So we really enjoy that community.
Good. What's your favorite food? Is it at the meat market? I've never been there. But
no, you asked favorite restaurant because my family loves it, and we do love going there. No, my favorite food, I am a vegetable kind of person. I do fruits and vegetables. I'm big on that. I'm a runner, so I'm very health conscious. So I like to eat a lot of fish, vegetables, fruits. I try to eat well.
Good.
And live well.
How about your favorite music?
My favorite music is my son playing the piano. That's my favorite music.
Are you musically inclined, gifted, or I can't carry a tune in a bucket if I had to? But
no, if you hear me talking very softly, my voice definitely does not carry a tune. Absolutely not. And really, my 15-year-old is the first musician we have in our family.
Neat.
And I love listening to him play the piano. I would say I listen to a lot of Enya, I'm a person who likes soft music. I'm not somebody who likes the car to rock with sound.
We had a guest on his episode's coming up next, I think, Gene Conrad, and he mentioned some music that he likes. I've never heard of it. And Eli started bobbing his head like he knew what he was talking about, but I didn't know what he was talking about. Do you like to dance?
I'm not a dancer. No, I can dance, and I love to dance with my husband, but no, that's not something that I have done. I am someone who works a whole lot, and any spare time I have, I'm with my family. And if I'm not with my family doing activities and watching their sporting events, I'm running or reading.
What's your favorite movie?
My favorite movie, I would say, of all time is The Pursuit of Happiness.
Do you like to cook?
I do, but my husband does all the cooking.
Okay, so the next question, if you and your husband could invite any 3 people to dinner, who would they be and what would you make them? That's your husband's specialty.
Any 3 people to dinner, who would they be? So I would say my husband's specialty really is grilling. He grills and we love it. The family loves when we grill. You know, I'm all about family. Don't mistake him when I don't pick prominent people in the world. But if I had any 3 people, it's my children. It will be them hands down 100% of the time without question.
Do you have a family pet?
We have 2 dogs. We had upwards of 4 dogs at one time. My husband's a retired canine officer, so we are animal lovers. We just lost one dog. His name is Bear, so he was a loss for our family, but he did experience Florida for a bit of time. We have 2 dogs with us now. Champ is a Bernedoodle, and then we have a mini Aussie, and her name is Coco.
What's your favorite place to go on vacation?
Hawaii.
What you mentioned that you run, is that your go-to stress reliever when you've just got to say, I got to decompress, I've got to keep from blowing a gasket, let me go put on some running shoes and get out and sweat a little bit?
I run every morning at 5 a.m., if not earlier, on my treadmill. People ask where I run, so I am safe. Good. I run on my treadmill early before the sun comes up most mornings, and it is something that I do. It's just part of my daily routine. It's, I just love it. I would say when I love to de-stress, it's really just, I love the beach. I love the sun. I love being outside. That is something that is my happy place with my family.
Are y'all boaters? Do you have a boat?
So we did at one point. So we do love the water. We don't have a boat down here, but my family does love the water. Good. They like to scuba dive. So my husband and my sons are certified. My youngest son, who's 15, was certified at 10, and he has the upper certifications, and that's why we love Hawaii, because we love to scuba. I have been known to scuba dive and skydive in my lifetime.
How many times have you jumped out of a plane, or how many times have you been thrown out of a plane? First one you get thrown out, the second one you jump?
I jumped out 3 times, and the third was the last, and I'll tell you that story another time.
All right, I'll do that. So you've been here year and a half. How do you like August in Florida?
To be honest with you, I tell people all the time, August here is no different than the smoggy atmosphere of Center City, Philadelphia in August. And
really?
People laugh at me. I really don't feel the difference. It is hot, don't get me wrong. But I would go to work in a suit every day in August in the city, and it felt just as hot to me. So it doesn't impact me at all. If you ask my husband, he'll say it's really hot. And they like to spend time at the beach with the cool weather coming off the ocean, or I would say the breeze, but I really don't have an issue with it.
Well, you haven't been here long enough. You haven't experienced enough of them. Once you've been here for a while, it's like, good Lord, it seems like it's hotter than it was last year.
Last August, everyone says compare it. It was a really hot summer. But I like the heat. The heat doesn't bother me. It was hot, don't get me wrong.
Right.
But like I said, if you're walking through the streets of Philadelphia, where I went to work every day, it didn't feel any cooler there to me. So it's all relative.
probably 7 or 8 years ago, there was a new physician coming to Winter Haven, and they asked me to show him around town and his wife and show him some houses, and it was August. And I picked him up at whatever hotel they were at, and she goes, "Is it always this hot in August?" I said, "Yes, ma'am, it is." And by the time the morning was over, her hair had started to frizz out. She had never experienced that type of humidity, and she said, "Are there alligators everywhere?" I said, "Well, they're only in the water." And we saw an alligator at one of the houses that we were at swimming by, and we saw a snake in the driveway, and they never just came back to Winter Haven. And I said, "Well, that's just part of it. Usually they don't bother you." So
That's funny. That was the number one questions we had when we were moving. Alligators and snakes.
Yep.
None of us appreciate alligators or snakes. And now we're at the point where, hey, look at that alligator. Can you see it? And so you get used to it, I think, being down here when you realize they're really not, unless you are near them or mess with them. Right, exactly. We still don't like snakes very much. We're not fans, but we only see black snakes. So we're just going with the theory that there's only black snakes where we live. And then we're fine with that.
That don't learn anything different.
We're not. We're going to keep ourselves ignorant to that fact.
I grew up on a lake, and if you've grown up on a lake, you have probably lost a dog to an alligator. And we had a poodle that got bit, and he survived, and he was a tough little poodle, but he died from the infection from when not from the bite or the compression, but the infection that the alligator put in him. We had another German Shepherd who got bit in the snout and was able to pull away. And, it stinks, but, when they're all down there in the lake and playing in the water and an alligator comes up.
Yes, we're not on any lakes anymore.
Good. Well, that kind of wraps it up. I appreciate your time very much here. Is there anything that I did not ask you that you wish I had or that you wanted us to know?
Well, I want to recognize all those I've encountered in my 18 months. I'm really proud to call West Central Florida my home. I feel honored to be a part of this community and all the leaders that serve, and recognize our board at BayCare and all our board of directors across all of our hospitals and our system who commit volunteer hours and time to make us who we are. It's been an amazing 26 years for BayCare, and I look forward to writing the chapter with each and every one of you. I'm very excited about the future. And for the Todd's podcast, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure, and I'm thrilled that you asked me.
Well, I wish everyone could spend an hour with you like I just did. I feel like I've gotten to know you much better. I am so excited for your leadership that you bring to BayCare and to all the hospitals that are in the BayCare health system. I hope that all the board members and trustees will take an hour to listen to this to find out a little bit more about what makes you tick and what's important to you, because I think understanding your leadership group is so important. And I can't thank you enough for coming out and spending just under an hour with us and kind of telling us a little bit about who you are, how you got here, and what's important to you, because your goals and your strategy are what's going to make BayCare and such a big part of the West Central Florida community tick. And so thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Todd. I'm only as good as the people I surround myself with, and I have an amazing team. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Hey, everybody. I want to thank you for listening to Todd's podcast. This has been your host, Todd Dantzler. If you enjoyed this episode of Todd's podcast, I encourage you to tune in next time. We'll be talking to Gene Conrad. He's going to talk to us about the Aerospace Center for Excellence, Sun and Fun, a little bit about Lakeland Linder Airport, his background, and just kind of how we got here. So it'll be a fun time with Gene, and you'll learn a little about the aerospace business. As always, don't forget to rate, review, follow, and subscribe to Todd's podcast on your favorite podcast app. If you have any questions for me or any suggestions for future guests, please call or text our number at 863-288-0944 or visit todddantzler.com. Again, that's 863-288-0944 or visit my website, todddantzler.com. I look forward to hearing your questions and feedback, and please take care.